I'm Jessica Giannone of Pint and a Play Reading. And with me at my table today, we have...
Hi, I'm CQ, or Christina Quintana, and I am the writer of Scissoring.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Cunningham, and I was the director for Scissoring.
Yeah, which was part of our first ever season of Pint and Play.
Wow!
Whoa!
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, I had to get my buddies in it because we met almost 11 years ago.
Wow, that's crazy.
As a printite at Williamstown
I just
Theater
saw
Festival.
Eloise in the lobbyist show, and it was so fun. We were talking about that.
Yeah. And then Amanda, who we'll talk about later, she was also on Apprentice with us.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And you also have known each other for quite a bit as well.
Lucky you.
The synopsis of Scissoring. When Abigail Bauer takes a job as a teacher at a conservative Catholic school, she's forced to step back into the closet against the wishes of her long-term girlfriend, Josie, right? As she struggles to reconcile her professional ambitions, personal relationships, religious beliefs, and internalized shame, Abigail receives guidance from First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and Eleanor's devoted friend and lover, Lorena Hickok. Through it all, Abigail must find the courage to be unabashedly herself. That's the synopsis.
This play was really the first play I ever, full-length play like I ever wanted to write. I went to Catholic school for 8 years in New Orleans, represent Ursuline Academy, Macro 06, for all those of you out there. But yeah, and it was a school like, you know, most Catholic schools, like not, although not always the case, but especially at that time, like in New Orleans, it was not like a place where one, sexuality was ever talked about. And when it was like very weird. And so as somebody who was not out yet, but definitely clearly very curious about it, there were just like a lot of things that kind of stood out. And one of them was my favorite teacher, who was this amazing English teacher. And I just like, people would like, there were all these rumors about her being gay. And also secretly I wondered like, what would it be like to be her? Like, what would it be like if you had to like be half of yourself and like hide yourself like that, and like you couldn't talk openly, and like this place that actually like in so many ways is all about like community and family and just but it's not, you know, like the sort of hypocrisy of that.
The golden rule that's like plastered everywhere, do unto yourself as you would want others to do unto you, and it's just like
And the thing at Ursuline was serviam, I will serve. Actually, after my senior year of high school, I ran into that teacher left the school, and I remember running into her at a Sarah Vowell reading, nerd alert, and she was with this woman, and I just like had this feeling that it was probably her girlfriend, and she was like very weird about it, and like didn't want to introduce me. It was like very interesting, even though like we were totally out of like the Ursuline bubble and everything. She didn't want to introduce her to me, and so I was like, and it really like hurt me a lot too. So all of that kind of like stuck with me for a very long time, and I invented this play. At the time it was called Hearsay, and and it was, and I wrote it in college, and that was actually the play that I applied to graduate school with. And so I applied to graduate school with, I was at Columbia, and I was really resistant to using it as my thesis, and actually Chuck Mee was like really encouraging. He was like, I think you should dig back into this.
Is that because you had used it to get in and you wanted a different platform to show you as
well, it kind of was like, I'd been working on a lot of different things, and I felt like a lot of the stuff I was working on was like was different, and like I didn't want to like waste the opportunity. Like I was like, I have this piece and I don't like, maybe it would be better to like explore. Rebecca directed it, and we did like a workshop of it at Columbia. And then honestly, like there was a little bit of response from it. We did a reading of it. It was a finalist for the Alliance Candida in Atlanta, which was awesome. It was like a really great experience. And then honestly, like it kind of just seemed like it was sort of gonna die in a drawer. There's like kind of a moment, like a play has like a moment, like that it circulates, and like that people can get interested in it, and then if it doesn't really get done, it sort of is like, okay, what else is there, you know? And not to say, as we'll go into, but as sort of ended up happening with this play, like they can have a life later, but oftentimes like within that period of time, it's sort of like, great, like you have like a year like where people are excited about it, and it's like a thing, and it had been like an honorable mention on the Kilroy's list and stuff like that, so it was like there was a little bit of buzz around it. But then it was like sort of like, okay, nobody's going to produce it. In 2018, I got a call from Lou at Intar, which if you're familiar with Intar, it's the oldest theater producing Latinx work in the country, and because of that, like, sort of the play ended up getting published, which was awesome.
Long before I directed it at Columbia, we met working on Blank Canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And then you reached, I don't even remember how that worked. You just reached out to me and you were like, hey,
Are you interested in this?
Do you want to direct this thing? We have $1,000 budget. And I was like straight out of college. So it was like, absolutely, $1,000. Holy shit.
Let's do this.
Like,
The pasta.
We did it at the Signature.
We saw that. I remember. I started acting for the directors in their first year and then followed those directors like Tyne and Ray and Kate through their 3 years, and then she jumped in the second year I was helping them. So I felt like we were going to school together. Or I felt like I was going to school that I was not going
like
to.
You and Liz too, because she was always doing Ray's stuff.
Yeah.
So so funny. You guys were like part of the.
Yeah. So we came and saw that production at the Signature.
So long ago.
I know.
At the time, there wasn't a whole lot of gay plays. I mean, there was Paula Vogel.
Tanya Barfield.
Yeah.
Stop Kiss. Yeah, the Diana Sun play.
But like independent stuff tended to be not great work.
Right.
And I remember talking about that with you, thinking like
Winter Miller.
Winter Miller. Yeah, everyone's holding us to a lower standard in terms of like what queer theater looks like. I don't think we used the word queer back then. I'll be honest. It was like gay. Yeah. And
I'm supposed to be lesbians, I think. Like
lesbians. Yeah. I'm gay, and so it was, but like I was fascinated by. I was also super fascinated. I grew up in New Jersey. I came out at 17, so I was really fascinated.
You were younger than that, actually.
Well, I started being gay.
I started being gay.
Acting out on gay stuff.
The being began.
And I was really fascinated by someone who has the ability to get up and leave a place that isn't accepting, but chooses to stay. And that's something that I went and moved to New York City because I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to deal with homophobia. I'm fine. But the idea that Abigail decided to go to work in a place where she couldn't be herself, like, totally fascinated me. Every single character is living with performing one kind of person in their in one life, and then their other life they're performing another thing. So it's like this struggle that I think like any queer person can identify with, or maybe just like any person in general.
Yeah.
No, don't apologize, Abigail. It's good. This is what friends are supposed to do. They're supposed to be honest with each other. And if a friend thinks that her friend is in a bad relationship situation or that she's suffocating her dreams with a pillow, then that's what the friend should tell her. And she should be okay with it because, after all, the friend was just being a good friend. She's trying to look out for her friend, right? Right. And if a friend is, say, being an asshole about the fact that she happens to be the lesbian teacher, then she should probably just grow up and deal with it, because the fact of the matter is she is the lesbian teacher. That's who she is. She has a girlfriend who she lives with in the gay fucking Marigny, who she loves in a big fucking gay way, and if that's too gay for her, then maybe she needs to take a step back and think about what's really important. Is it more important to work in a place where you have to be half of yourself? Or is it more important to try to salvage a relationship with someone who cares more about a person than a job or some fucking religion where the Pope could give a shit about you or your woman problems or your girlfriend or your hard little life in South Louisiana? I'm getting your coffee. Do you want something?
I'm a sucker for magical realism and stuff in plays. I mean, I'm about to actually go do Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime down in North Carolina. And I'm just like, any magical element in a reality always just blows my mind. So my question is, when did Eleanor Roosevelt pop into this play?
Oh yeah, so when I was in grad school and I was like messing and I was bringing stuff in, I became obsessed with this book of letters called Empty Without You, which at the time like wasn't, I don't think, very well known.
It's still not well known.
It's probably still not very well known, but I mean, especially among like queer, like
People weren't talking about.
People were talking about that
Yeah.
specifically, but like I feel like there was like an Eleanor, Roosevelt, Lorena Hickok thing that like kind of happened, sort of in part thanks to this. And now there's like a novel about them. I was using pieces of the letters, and Chuck was very much like encouraged me to like actually really make the characters my own, and I just sort of like the parallels between Eleanor and Lorena and their relationship and like what was happening between Abigail and Josie just felt like, and just like the idea of, you know, sort of our heroes that we kind of like hold on to, and especially like her being a history teacher and especially teaching American history and just sort of like becoming like obsessed with this woman and that sort of element. The PA speaks to her, and there was just something that really became clear that it was sort of like the devil angel on the shoulder, that it was like Lorena and Eleanor were sort of her angel and the PA system was sort of the devil on the shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it sort of seemed natural that like sort of these magical worlds were coexisting in this place.
How much was from the stage directions when you started to add some of this, like, the speakers, you know, comes to life and, like,
CQ
the
wrote
floating
that.
characters?
CQ wrote the wall. I don't even know what your stage direction was. It was like the wall comes apart, and we're like $1,000 budget, ready? The wall comes apart, and the PA system walks out. CQ's work is incredibly fun for a director. It's a big part of the reason why I loved her work from the get-go, because you also leave a lot of room for directors. We decided that it wasn't in the script, but we decided that the PA system would be a drag queen, and that just like came from like.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Even when we did the reading of it, the way, because, you know, every director can set it up however they want. I thought it was so interesting how you set it up, and you had like the row in the front and the row in the back, and it was like the voices, like you were saying, like the angel and the devil on the shoulders, like.
Yeah, I forgot I did that.
Well, I thought it was brilliant. So, because even thinking of school productions, thinking of not having budgets, there's still like creative ways to create this presence in this play.
Like all of my work, I actually prefer it being simpler. I'm just like more and more just interested in why, especially as I now am working in TV and film, is like what makes something a play. No, it's not that fancy. It's not that fancy. But I think that I'm more and more, and I've always been interested in it, but I think even more now, like why is something a play? Like why is it on stage? Like what can we do on stage that we can't do in it? You know? Endlings, which is my friend Celine Song's play, which is at New York Theater Workshop right now, which is like just so huge and magical and just like so exciting, and you're just like this. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a version of it that could exist as a film, but like it just is a piece of theater. Like it just like kind of expresses like the fullness of what the form can be, you know?
Well, even when I was down doing the cake and Becca came down, and just then we found out she just finished writing the script of the cake for a film, and she said she did not see it as a film until someone came to her with a vision that was like, here is how we could shape it to do that.
We are
you know?
we are seeing it in TV now. You
Yeah.
can see how playwrights are now going out to LA, because you're like, oh, television is different now. I mean, theater is bleeding into it. I'm trying to think of examples.
Like The Watchmen?
The
Yeah,
Watchmen.
that one was a Brenda Jacob Jenkins, right?
And Claire Keishel is on it.
Yeah, and you can just tell.
And they have playwrights working on
Rami.
Sabrina, which is like
Oh, that's good too.
And you look at that and you're like, oh, this feels a little bit like a piece of theater, but it's also television. So yeah, it's happening. Playwrights are taking over the world.
I wanted to ask if there's a character, you kind of talked about it, you relate to the most in this play.
Who's yours? Josie.
I don't know. Josie's way cooler than I am.
She's really cool.
She's too cool. It's so funny because one thing I love about this play and about, well, a lot of my plays that I write, because I'm not also an actor, I don't write my plays like from that perspective.
Excuse me, what did you go to Williamstown as though?
Okay, that was like 12.
An acting apprentice.
But I will say that, like, as a writer, it's like, it's all the parts, there are pieces of me that you know what I mean? I think there's like, obviously like a lot of like Abigail's journey that I mean, there's a lot. I was in a relationship with someone for a while who was like kind of semi-closeted, and there definitely was like a lot of that relationship that sort of ended up going into the play. And I remember even when it was hearsay, actually Josie wasn't even a character. And I think that was my own shame and my own not ready to sort of explore that. I think I've told Rebecca this before. I feel like everything I ever write, there's always a character who like I really like think is so cool. I'm like, I feel like she's way cooler. But I love when people are like, you're kind of like a combination of Abigail and Josie. Oh, Celia.
You are a little bit of
A little bit of Celia too. I'm a little bit of all.
You're like a holy trinity.
Yeah, holy trinity. I remember, being, a college student and looking through all the plays and looking for myself in those plays and not seeing myself. And so, like, getting a lot of young, queer women who are just like, wow, there's like a role for me. Like in the production, actually, Ashley Ortiz, who played Josie, was...
And she did the Pint play reading.
Yeah,
too.
she did. She did. And she was the only, like, queer, member of our cast, which was, I think, like, really interesting, and I think it was probably really challenging for her too, not to speak for her, but I would love to see a version of this play done.
Everyone's queer.
And one of the, I think, most, I will say, honestly, gratifying experiences working on the production at Intar was our director, Stefania, two good friends of hers, are a couple who moved. One of them is from New Orleans as well, and one of them moved down there, and they have a young daughter, and just the experiences. They'd been in Brooklyn for a while, and just talking to them about the difference between like having been in Brooklyn and being out and being married, and then being at a school, not a Catholic school. And one of the couple telling me about how she caught herself like saying like my house that I bought instead of like our house, like just even those little things. And this was like in 2018, so I think there's just like all of those weird, like there's just so many, I think, layers to this play, but I do think a big part of it is place, because so often I think within my own experiences, and it's what Rebecca was I think pointing to earlier, like having been from New Jersey, where it's like a lot of people especially up north don't recognize, like they're like, what? Like, how is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't understand,
Oh, I knew we just had Mardi Gras down there. Correct.
We did.
And the biggest part of Mardi Gras happens on Bourbon Street, and the pie we made for this play was Bourbon Street pecan pie. Did you say pecan or pecan?
I had a teacher in high school who would always say, the pecans down the hall.
Yeah.
That was always her joke, because
I
she
don't
would say
understand
pecan.
what that means.
She'd be like, it's a pecan pie. The pecan is down the hall.
Where you can
Get
pee in
it.
a can?
Like
Like
the
go to the
restroom,
bathroom.
the bathroom. Okay, anyway, guess it wasn't that good of a joke. Sorry, Miss Nolan.
Bourbon Street pecan pie.
Either way, it's not.
Today we're going to make the Bourbon Street pecan pie, inspired by the New Orleans setting in Christina Quintana's CQ play Scissoring that we did for Pie, Pint, and a Play Ring. And it's perfect because we just had Mardi Gras, so we'll keep that party going with actual bourbon in this pie. Ta-da! Mardi Gras, time to get them heated up. And that's how you make the Bourbon Street pecan pie. Well, we'll see what Christina and Rebecca think. I think they'll like it.
As good as I remember.
It's got the bourbon in it.
This is the same one you made last time?
Mm-hmm. Kept them frozen for a few years. No, yeah.
Jess, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we tried, it was your first year actually
I think it was
living
my first year here. Yeah.
It was like my second year.
Mm-hmm.
She came over. I'm like, we're gonna make this king cake. Forgot every step, you have to let it rise for an hour. Like you do it.
Wasn't it like 8 hours?
I don't know. Yeah, so like we would do the step and then it's like rest for such and such time. Great.
The whole process was like 6 to 8 hours. Like it ended up being like, it was really good though.
It was good. It was worth
It was
the wait.
really good. It was very good.
And I think it was the last king cake I've made.
I mean, that's a lot of time.
Now what I do is I get the crescent rolls.
I did that once too.
Yeah, it worked really nice. What are we all working on now? Since the year, well, we know Scissoring got put on into full production.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember it was like the first time your agent came and saw your
Oh
your
yeah,
new
it was
agent.
the reading
The first thing they came and
for
saw
Pint
was.
to Play. That's the first one Katie came to.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. She was so sweet too.
She's great. I love
Do you not know, or are you just saying?
I actually remembered it. No, I just said I remembered her.
You were like, I should probably invite my agent.
I love her. Katie Melly. She's been with me through a lot, and
Yeah.
she's a big champion, and I really love her.
And you just came back to the East Coast from the West Coast, right?
From the West.
Can you talk about what you were doing there? Because
I was living. No, just kidding.
it involves baked goods as well,
It
correct?
does actually. That's so wow.
Did you have
But you
baked
be
goods,
prepared for
though?
this?
Yeah.
I did. I was working on a television show called The Baker and the Beauty, which is kind of like Notting Hill meets My Big Fat Greek Wedding with a Cuban family.
I love that description.
That's the way we described it. It actually is probably like the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a new television series that's coming to ABC in April 13th.
Awesome. And then right now in the city, you have something going on at WP.
I do.
Oh yeah.
Ding ding ding.
I do. I shouldn't have eaten at that moment.
I think this is the best part.
So the WP Lab is like a 2-year thing, which is pretty cool. And they choose 5 directors, 5 producers, and 5 playwrights. And then the second year you get paired with each other, and you put on a show of your choosing. It basically ends up having like 3, or is it 4 shows, and it could be a reading, it could be like more of a workshop. It's so funny. I feel like I have braces again suddenly. What is it? This?
You do.
It's just
I
dark
can see
corn
them.
syrup.
It's delicious.
Yeah, that one drop of water, I'll just
Go for
clean it away.
I'm working on this piece that I've actually been developing for years. That's called Tobias, a Novel in Performance. And it's a hybrid piece. It basically combines it's playing with the structure of a novel meets a play.
Talking about changing the form or being creative with the form.
Trying. I mean, this is something that's been on my mind for a long time, because as somebody who works across genre, like I work in prose and poetry, and I've always been kind of frustrated with the fact that a lot of people who are very well read and who go to the theater just are like, I don't read plays, I don't understand how you read a play. And that's just like bothered me so much. I'm kind of obsessed obviously with queer history, as you can see with a lot of my work, but there was a real guy named Tobias. So in New Amsterdam, which was, what we know as now New York, but, downtown, there was, when the Dutch came, of the first 11 enslaved men brought over, there was one of them named Tobias. And long story short, but Tobias and this man named Harman van den Bogart, who was known for traveling through Mohawk country and keeping a journal of his relationship with the Mohawk, actually was charged with sodomy with Tobias. And what we know from the history books is that they actually fled to Mohawk country, and Harman was actually drowned in the North River, which is now the Hudson, and Tobias's whereabouts are unknown. So when I first kind of went down the rabbit hole of this story, I became really obsessed with Tobias and like wanting to tell his story and wanting to know about him, and he was talking to me and I couldn't stop hearing him. And I actually was really interested in what could be, originally I was kind of thinking of maybe 3 parts, but I was really interested in what is like the modern version of that. So I was talking to this really wonderful PhD candidate who I used to work with, this guy Lee Bynum, and we started talking about it, and he was like, well, it's so obvious. It's kind of like daddies. It's thinking about older white men in relationship with younger men of color. Sugar dating is a practice which is, there are apps, and it's basically wealthy, powerful men who pay for escorts. And I just kind of became obsessed with it, and like, what is the morality behind it? Like, is it wrong? Like, if you're actually both on the same page about it, and but really with this also kind of looking at 3 different worlds. So in the past, we're basically looking at Tobias, Harmon, and this character of Wanique, who is a Mohawk woman who serves as their guide through Mohawk country. And in the modern context, we're looking at Ray, who is Tobias's best friend and roommate, who they moved together from Albany to Queens. And then David, who is this billionaire, who is the sugar daddy.
And you have an amazing project that we've all been involved with because of you. Can you please talk about Girls Tales?
Sure, it is. So I have a kids podcast called Girl Tales, and we take fairy tales and adapt them so that girls and non-binary kids are the heroes, and they're at the center of their own narratives. I ask a different playwright to write the fairy tale they needed to hear as kids and just never did. And so, yeah, so now we have like 45 episodes. We have 2 seasons under our belt, and I'm tired. But it's been really cool. We have audiences all over the world, which is not something I ever thought I would say. And we're building now from one podcast to become the place where like parents and families and kids can come to find like feminist, intersectionally feminist content. We had a segment called Little Girls Doing Big Things where I interviewed girls who were making positive change in their communities and not waiting until they were grown-ups to start chasing their dreams. Yeah, and it's incredibly remarkable and inspiring, and also hard, because I think when a child feels the need to become an activist, it means a grown-up somewhere has failed them. CQ did the first episode for us, actually.
What one was that one?
It's called The Literate Mermaid. It's about it's
Love it.
I remember when I first texted her and I was like, if I called it this, would you hate me?
That's great. It's about a mermaid who wants to be able to read, but can't because every time she brings the book down to the ocean.
Okay, that's what I was like, yeah. Oh.
So, yeah.
Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? No, it's gone.
There's a character called Creepo.
How'd you come up with that name?
It actually becomes a part of it.
The best work. There's something that happens, I think, when we become adults where we start thinking we don't have to take children seriously anymore. And one of the notes that we got from kids, like when they were listening to our episodes, was, I love this, but can I have, this is my favorite note. He said, I need more despair. Meaning, like, he wanted to be taken seriously. Like, he has a range of emotions. Why can't that be expressed in his stories?
Yeah. These stories getting to kids at that age, imagine how they're going to live their life, besides the fairy tales we grow up. Yeah, exactly.
It's a different experience.
And I mean, that's why I started Pint Play, too, is, female identifying playwrights, directors, producers, because there's so many.
And I do think it's a big part of it is like people, lifting each other up. Like I think that's
and burning it all down, just starting over.
Both of them. Yeah, it's true.
And then mixing it up, putting
Making
it into a pie, and making it into a pie.
That's what we do. We make pie.
That's a great conclusion to all this. Thank you so much,
Thank
CQ.
you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yay!
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Yay!
We make the pie, we bake the pie, we eat the pie, we eat the pie, we thankful, Pie, P-I-E, pie.